Hello everybody, Disciple here with Overwatch Curios.
Ha! Just kidding. That wasn't Disciple at all. That was ProZD. I don't have much of an explanation for that. I'm one of his Patreons, and I can pay him to say whatever I want. And so anyway, here's the video. So if you guys like Overwatch, then you probably love blasting your opponent's face off with your ultimates. Now, a while ago we made a video about which were the top 5 best ultimates in the game, and it was a little bit controversial. Some of you guys didn't all agree on which I thought were the top 5 best ultimates, but I felt like I had a pretty strong list. Now looking back on it, I think I could have made some changes, but what I thought were, how can we make a list of the worst ultimates in the game? Now I made a list myself, and as soon as I ran it by a couple of my professional and top 500 friends, what I realized is that this is a really controversial topic that nobody can seem to agree on. So your guys' list might be entirely different from mine. You might have a completely different 5, but I do have some criteria to create this list. It's not just entirely based off of my own feelings. The ultimate can't be comboed with other ultimates to make it good. It has to be good on its own. So for example, Hanzo ult is amazing when comboed with a Zarya ult, but I want to look at how good Hanzo ult is by itself, and the same goes for every other ult except for the supportive ones like Ana and Erisa that boost your own teammates. Those can be viewed as how good are they with other heroes, since that's the entire point of them existing in the first place. I also didn't take into account the rest of a hero's strengths on this list, so a hero can be amazing and still have a bad ult, or a hero can be really terrible but still have an amazing ult. It's just not good enough to make them a good hero. And this list is entirely different than the list I came up with at the very beginning, except for number 1, and so I hope you guys enjoy it, and hopefully you don't hate me too much for what I'm about to say. So starting off on the hopefully less controversial end is going to be number 5 with Widowmaker. Now, Widowmaker's ult was in the past potentially one of the best ults in the entire game, especially back in the beta when Widow could charge her ultimate while her ult was active. Even while she had Infrasight up, all of her damage dealt could count towards her gaining a new ultimate, and so sometimes if she did well enough, she could ult again immediately after she had her last Infrasight run out. Now, of course, that's not the case as with every other hero in the game, and Widow hasn't really seen a lot of play lately because of the heavy tank and dive metas. Overall, it's really just a game of ult economy where you need big ults to wipe teams, and that's how you get your few pushes of ticks on the point or a few feet on the payload. And using one of those ultimates just to see through walls turns out to not quite be good enough. Widowmaker is pretty strong in some situations, but doesn't really see a lot of professional play because most people are just smart enough to play around the Widowmaker, and they know that if Infrasight is up, they just need to stay near their shields, their Reinhardt, their Winston, their Diva who can defense matrix, and they can be pretty safe. People don't play quite as stupidly, and although she still can be strong in solo queue, her ult just isn't quite as deadly as some others here, and so she's going to be on this list. And although some of you guys might think that wall hacks are OP and you hate getting killed by a Widow, you have to remember there are going to be 18 heroes that aren't on this list, and I think all of their ultimates are just better in more situations, especially at a top level of play, than Widowmakers. Now number 4 is where we might start to get a little bit controversial, but remember, I really hate ultimates that make you stand still or make you vulnerable in some way, since once you get to a good level, players are just going to kill you to stop it. And that's why McCree is number 4 on our list with Deadeye. McCree's Deadeye can do a lot of damage. Actually, it has the highest damage potential of any ultimate in the entire game for a single second worth of damage, since he can charge it up for quite a long time and even break an entire Reinhardt shield. However, the fact that he has to stand still to do it makes it a lot worse. Now, he was recently buffed so that his damage scales up a lot faster than it used to, and this of course did make him a lot stronger, and it did make the ult less bad, but the question is it still better than the 19 other heroes in the game that are above him? And I think the fact that you can just kill him while he's using it, and the fact that it gets eaten by any shield in the game as well as Diva's defense matrix, means that it just doesn't cut it. Lucio is incredibly strong right now, and Lucio can speed boost you out of it. He can also boop McCree out of the way, or any tank can pretty much dive onto him and shield it up. Even a Zarya could stand in front of him, use her personal shield, and take 1 or 2 shots while killing him in the process, and pretty much any DPS can kill him faster than he can kill them with Deadeye, meaning that an attentive Soldier 76, McCree, or even a Genji can kill him before he can get his ult off as well. Now, there are situations where McCree ult is awesome, where where the enemy team can't exactly find him, or we can use it as a zoning ultimate, but there are actually a lot better zoning ults in the game, like D.Va's, and I feel like McCree's ult is just a little bit too weak at the moment, due to the strengths of most of the other heroes who are meta at the moment, completely stopping his ultimate from being useful pretty much at all. Now, number 3 is where things start to heat up a little bit, and I'm actually a little embarrassed because this ultimate was on our list of top 5 best ultimates, but I can tell you guys I have seen the light. Back then, my list of top 5 ultimates was wrong, and I can say that flat out because Pharah is number 3 on our list. Now, you guys are probably thinking, what the fuck, Overwatch Curios? Disliked, unsubscribed, I'm gonna leave a mean ass comment telling you how I am going to do terrible things to your family because Pharah ult has killed me so many times, or I've killed so many people with Pharah ult. And I didn't want to put this on the list either. I even finally argued to try and put it on honorable mentions, but Roflgator, who was previously the coach of Fnatic and is now the coach of Tempo Storm's Overwatch team, made me put it on it after he asked several of his professional friends, and they all agreed that they actually thought Pharah's ult was the worst in the game because of the fact that it just makes you so exposed, so stationary, and so easy to kill. Now, at lower levels, I agree, Pharah's ult is extremely powerful and it's definitely not bad when you're in a solo environment or playing in quick play or in bronze, silver, or even gold. However, once you get to a higher level, it turns out that it's pretty easy to stop you. D.Va can defense matrix you, pretty much anyone can shield you for at least long enough to kill you in return, and Anas are actually insanely good with their sleep darts that they'll take you out of the sky before you even killed anyone. Now, of course, Pharah's can do some sort of stealth surprise ultimates where they kill you before you even get a chance to respond, but those are a little bit too situational for us to include here, since overall Pharah's really tend to die in their ultimate unless it's comboed with something else like a Zarya ultimate, or unless they're really heavily pocketed or defended by a D.Va or a Reinhardt or a Mercy trying to heal them. Now, I'm not saying that Pharah is bad at all. She's a really powerful hero at the moment, and her ultimate can be really useful in some situations, but if you're just taking the ultimates into account, I actually think that it's worse than a lot of the ultimates in the game. In fact, 21 others are better than it overall, and it really is useful in some situations, and in others, it just gets you killed. It's insanely hard to use Pharah ult against good players without getting killed, and that is why I believe that it is the 3rd worst ultimate in the entire game of Overwatch. Please don't hate me for that. Now, number 2 is something that you guys can probably get behind, and although it is bugged at the moment to make it a little bit stronger than it should be, I'm not going to take that bug into account. Now, Erisa's ultimate is one of the most counterable ults in the game, and it really doesn't feel like it does that much. Now, obviously, it does make your team significantly stronger, but a lot of the time it's hard to really feel like that, since of course there are so many other things to take into account when it does boost you up. The fact that it is so easily counterable just by shooting it and killing it definitely brings it down a few pegs, and the fact that to make use of it, you have to be 100% accurate with all of your shots, it can't be blocked by a Reinhardt or a D.Va, and your teammates can't die before they're able to get all of the damage off, means that it's just incredibly situational and really needs an insanely solid team to even make it as good as another ultimate. In most cases, it's just going to give you guys a little bit of a boost, but it's not exactly worth an ultimate slot on a hero that already struggles a little bit in the current meta. It's essentially as vulnerable and avoidable as other zoning type ultimates like D.Va's or McCree's, but it doesn't do nearly as much as those ultimates in that it doesn't essentially guarantee you a win of that fight if you're able to get it off for the full duration. Now, it is really powerful and it can be really useful, and the fact that right now Erisa can charge her ult up while her ult is active, and her ult boosts her damage, which helps her charge her ult even faster, means that it is pretty strong and might even not deserve a spot on this list. That'll probably be fixed soon, and so I'm going to put it here as number 2. And now finally I get a chance to breathe easy, since at number 1 I can confidently say that Junkrat's ultimate is the worst in the entire game. Riptire is just incredibly too unreliable and has way too many things wrong with it to make the fact that it does do a good amount of AoE damage to really make up for that. The fact that he has to crouch down and stand still with literally no control over his character at all, and even no vision on him, means that you can be killed by even a Mercy pulling out her pistol and hitting you in the head without really even knowing it and without any chance to defend yourself unless you trigger your ultimate early, get get back into your body, react to it, and survive, and that's incredibly unlikely. Now you can try to hide in a safe spot while you ult, but that means that your ult is coming from a direction that's potentially counterable, and the fact that your ultimate has a health bar and it can be shot with just a few shots by any competent DPS, or shielded by pretty much any of the tanks in the game, means that Junkrat ultimate is just useless in most circumstances. Now it's really strong when comboed with something like Zarya or with Reinhardt, or if you have really bad enemies, but in a top tier competitive or professional environment, or even down to a platinum and diamond level, it's just not good enough compared to all the other great ults in the game. Now for honorable mentions, there were a couple ults that I thought about putting on the list, but they're actually situational in enough circumstances that I don't think they're really that bad. Tracer's Pulse Bomb was definitely on my original list due to the fact that it's so difficult to actually land it on a mobile target, and it's really easy to run away from it, but the fact that people are now using it to burst down tanks' health bars, like throwing it onto a Winston and shooting them a few times to burst them down from 100 to 0, means that it's actually gotten a lot better now that people are using it in a slightly different way. And Roadhogs was another one that I wanted to put on the list since it does make him very, very vulnerable, and it sometimes seems to hurt as much as it helps since it pushes your opponents away and can often save them from your own team's damage, especially melee range damage like an ulting Genji or a Reinhardt swinging. But Roflgator convinced me not to put it on the list originally, since it's actually useful in more situations than it isn't. Often it can push away an ulting Genji or force him to deflect, meaning he can't kill your team, and it absolutely shreds shields and tanks, except for D.Va, who can usually defense matrix it. But it still makes you very vulnerable, and in a lot of cases it's difficult to use, and so I wanted to mention it since a lot of you guys probably feel like it deserves to be on the list as well. So there it is, what I, along with some of my top 500 and professional friends, think are the top 5 worst ultimates in the entire game. Thank you guys so much for watching, and also thanks to ProZD for that really dope intro, and I will see you guys next time. If you like this video, then I would love it if you could subscribe or drop a like, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.